For nearly 99% of human existence, history was completely silent. Empires rose, migration reshaped continents, and billions of lives passed without leaving a single written word behind. Our ancestors memorized everything. They told stories around fires, tracked the stars through song, and remembered generational lineages by heart. Then, around 5,500 years ago, in Mesopotamia, everything changed. A fundamental shift occurred that permanently altered human consciousness. But humanity did not sit down with the noble intention of preserving its soul or recording philosophy for future generations. The birth of the written word was completely unintentional. It was a chaotic side effect of a completely different problem. Humans did not invent writing to communicate across millennia. Our species stumbled into it by accident.
There is a widespread romantic belief that writing began as art. The common assumption is that prehistoric cave paintings gradually evolved into beautiful pictograms, which then naturally transitioned into alphabets so that early kings could boast about victories or poets could write about love. It is a comforting narrative about human genius, but this belief is profoundly wrong. The earliest surviving records on Earth contain absolutely no poetry, no grand historical narratives, and no theological wisdom. Instead, they are crowded with boring, repetitive lists of commodities. They are receipts. Before humans ever recorded the name of a god or a king, they recorded the exact number of sheep delivered to a temple. But here's what actually happened.
The origin of this accident traces back to the agricultural revolution. As detailed in a landmark study by Denise Schmont-Besserat from the University of Texas at Austin in 1992, early agricultural communities faced a brand new logistical crisis: trust. In small nomadic tribes, everyone knew who contributed what. But as thousands of humans packed into the earliest cities, like Uruk, biological memory failed. Society required a reliable way to track trades, debts, and taxes. The solution was the invention of small, three-dimensional clay tokens. A cone represented a specific measure of grain. A sphere represented a jar of oil. A cylinder represented a sheep. For centuries, these physical tokens functioned perfectly as a primitive, physical database to manage human transactions.
However, physical tokens are easily lost, stolen, or altered by dishonest traders. To prevent fraud, ancient accountants began sealing these tokens inside hollow clay balls, called bullae. Once sealed, no one could tamper with the numbers inside. But this security measure created a ridiculous problem. To verify the debt later, the clay ball had to be smashed open. To avoid this constant destruction, a clever accountant realized they could take the sharp end of a reed and press the tokens into the wet outer surface of the ball before sealing it. The outside markings matched the contents inside. Eventually, someone realized the obvious. If the exterior markings told the whole story, the actual physical tokens inside were completely useless. The hollow clay balls collapsed into flat clay tablets. The transition from 3 dimensions to 2 dimensions changed everything. The pressed shapes on clay quickly evolved into stylized drawings, known as cuneiform. But a massive cognitive bottleneck remained. A symbol for an ox could only represent a physical ox. To expand the system, humans needed an abstraction leap. This breakthrough occurred through what linguists call the rebus principle. Accountants began using the sound of a symbol rather than its meaning. For example, if the spoken word for cow sounded like the word for trust, the drawing of a cow began to mean trust. As documented by Oxford Archeological Records in 2014, this accidental shift decoupled writing from physical objects, transforming it into a tool capable of recording abstract thoughts.
Accountants began using the sound of a symbol rather than its meaning. For example, if the spoken word for cow sounded like the word for trust, the drawing of a cow began to mean trust. As documented by Oxford Archeological Records in 2014, this accidental shift decoupled writing from physical objects,
transforming it into a tool capable of recording abstract thoughts. The human brain, which had evolved for hundreds of thousands of years exclusively for oral communication, suddenly found itself augmented by an external hard drive. This altered the very nature of human power. For the first time in history, knowledge survived the death of the person who possessed it. Empires could now grow because laws could be distributed across vast distances without changing. Bureaucracy, legal codes, and religious texts all rushed into existence through a doorway opened by forgotten ancient bookkeepers.
Every single day, modern humans engage with this exact same ancient accident. Every text message sent, every email typed, and every line of code written is a direct descendant of those clay tax receipts from ancient Sumer. We like to view ourselves as philosophical beings who invented literature to touch the divine. But our most transformative technology was born out of sheer bureaucratic exhaustion. Our species did not set out to build a mirror for human consciousness. We just wanted to make sure no one was stealing our beer. If you want to understand how other modern habits were shaped by ancient evolutionary programming, look at our breakdown of how humans accidentally created dogs. The link is on the screen right now.